A 28-year-old Lucy Hutton is a fashionable, bubbly, smart, and confident office girl. She works as an executive assistant under Helen Pascal of Gaiman Publishing. Their company is well known for its insistence on literature as art. Unfortunately, it faced bankruptcy and was forced to merge with Bexley, a company headed by Mr. Bexley, with a reputation for producing ghostwritten biographies. The integration of the two companies makes a new name for Gaiman and Bexley Publishing House. Despite being united, there are certain characteristics of both teams that are way opposite and cause misunderstanding and hatred. Gaiman is home to friendly and cheerful employees wearing colorful casual attires. On the other hand, the Bexley team is rude and overconfident workers. One would also distinguish a Bexley because of their dark formal corporate attires. There were instances that a Gaiman fell in love with someone from Bexley. However, it never worked out because they were always at war. Lucy does not only hate the entire Bexley group, but specifically Mr. Bexley's executive assistant, Joshua Templeman. Josh is a tall, attractive, intelligent, and intimidating assistant whose desks are only across Lucy's. Their working space is supposed to be a lobby separating Ms. Helen and Mr. Bexley's offices. Since they are only starting from almost closing down, they have to work through a limited area in the meantime. It has no compartment or anything for privacy, and Lucy gets annoyed by Josh, who copies her mannerisms. Because of that, the two became cats and dogs, fighting over small things. Lucy believes that hating someone feels disturbing, like falling in love with them. However, in the case of Josh, it was purely out of hate every time she deeply breathed, controlling herself to punch him. One time, Lucy reapplies her favorite red lipstick and blots it twice onto tissue paper for a natural finish. Josh never let that pass and imitated her. The lady turned red and almost exploded out of anger. Lucy's hate for Josh can be traced to their first meeting after their company merged. On Josh's first day of work as Mr. Bexley's assistant, Lucy went to the office early and brought a plant with her. She wants to give as a present to him, which he can display on the table. Josh got out of the elevator, and Lucy smiled when she gave the plant to him. Josh looked at her with a serious face. He received the present but didn't smile or say thank you to her. He never expressed simple gratitude at all. For the years they worked together, Lucy never saw him smile ever. Apart from that, Lucy finds him a freak. His table is always neat and clean, with notebooks, sticky notes, and even pens. All of those were neatly placed in a specific desk location, no matter how busy he was. To annoy him, Lucy would go into his things and put the stapler everywhere. She would also ruin the color combination of the sticky notes and change it to a lighter color. Speaking of color, Josh is also obsessed with wearing the same order of shirts every week, and Lucy can enumerate those shades of blue. Josh would also not miss a tiny mistake from Lucy's outputs. He would go through all the details and return them to her for revision. But if there is something the lady hates the most about him, it would be meddling in the list of employees to be terminated. He would always fire her work friends, making Lucy all alone fighting hating games with him. Jeanette from the Human Resource Department was overwhelmed with complaints from employees' chaos in the company. She suggests having team building to settle grudges between Bexley and Gaiman. Lucy was included in making trouble, but she was forced to submit a proposal for the team building theme. The sweet Lucy grabbed some cupcakes in the pantry to serve them to everyone at the conference. She bumped into her boss, Helen, and she recited all the tasks she had accomplished, including the proposal for team building. Helen entrusted everything to Lucy and was grateful she was doing the job well. The meeting was about to start, and Josh was standing beside the conference room door. He was waiting for Lucy, who was busy chit-chatting with Helen, carrying cupcakes to impress the boss. It was not part of her job to serve cupcakes, making him feel annoyed. He will think of something to insult her whenever she passes by him. Lucy saw Josh standing beside the door, glaring at her. She knows he is up for something, and she better be alert. Suddenly, an employee talked to her, pleading for an extension to the monthly report. Her puppy accidentally ate peanut butter and was allergic to it. She was a similar subordinate who kept making excuses whenever she couldn't make a report on time, but Lucy smiled and granted her request. Deep inside, Lucy hates to give her another chance, but she cannot confront her about it. Josh overheard their conversation and called out Lucy's behavior. The man noticed she was lenient with the deadline and tolerated the laziness of subordinates. If it were in his case, he would never let it pass. As usual, the two verbally fought after Lucy backfired his statements to win the argument. The lady went inside the conference room, greeting everyone with a happy Thanksgiving. She also offered them cupcakes and made a birthday girl happy. Josh was sitting, annoyed by Lucy delaying the meeting. The lady stared sharply at him for being a killjoy and commented on his crooked tie. The conference started, and the CEOs, Helen and Mr. Bexley, made an important announcement. They will be opening a new position of managing director who will oversee each department and create reports for them. The position is open for external applicants, but employees of Gaiman and Bexley are highly preferred. The candidates will make a presentation to the board after New Year. Hearing that, Lucy and Josh glared at each other, and competition was about to arise. Lucy was chilling, making tea at the pantry, when Josh disturbed her. He was confident about winning the position since he was intelligent and hardworking. Lucy was irritated when he called her shortcake. Josh loves naming her that because of her height. She is only 5 feet flat, way shorter than him. Lucy told him to stop assuming to be the manager because everyone dislikes him, compared to her, who makes more friends in the company. The two nagged at each other until they reached their office on the top floor. Lucy suggested that if one of them gets hired, the other will resign. Josh replied he wouldn't quit, so Lucy threatened to fire him herself. In the office, Danny was waiting for Lucy to arrive because he wanted to give her something. Lucy was delighted to see Danny grabbing the latest published book of the company. Danny is the publication designer of the firm, and he permanently secures a copy for Lucy before releasing it to the public. Lucy commented on the cover page, which doesn't fit the content. It was also Danny's concern, however, Mr. Bexley chose it. Apart from the book, he also delivered Lucy's small package. The lady was embarrassed and hid it immediately in her bag. Josh wondered what was inside, so he asked Danny. Lucy stopped Danny, but it was too late. He revealed it was a Smurf collection for her Smurf village. Josh laughed hard, and he found her childish for having those miniatures. Lucy rolled her eyes and denied it. It was the end of the shift, so Lucy packed her things to go home. Even at the elevator, she and Josh are still arguing. Jeanette from HR, working late, got even more stressed hearing the two. They seem like cats and dogs fighting over small things. She reminded them to calm down because they were already involved in 4 major troubles. Lucy's life was only at peace when she rode home on the bus. Well, they were ladies talking aloud, and an annoying magician showing her a chicken from a trash bag, but at least Josh was not there. After the tiring ride, Lucy arrived home. The lady was indeed a Smurf fan, and all her collections were displayed around the apartment. Her mom called, forcing the lady to have a boyfriend. She was worried about her daughter being alone in the city, when there were millions of guys to date. She also shipped her to Josh, whom the lady mentions a lot. Lucy laughed and swore never to fall in love with a rude man like him. The lady ended the call and told her mom she would be going out to celebrate Thanksgiving. She only stayed at home, creating a website about Smurfs. While Lucy was sleeping, someone was touching her, and it was Josh. She screamed for help and found out it was only a nightmare. The next day, Lucy looked chic in a short black dress and walked confidently to the office. She couldn't wait to see Josh's reaction after making fun of her outfit last time. The elevator opened, and Josh saw Lucy overdressed for office. She looks like she is going to a date or party in such a fitting dress. He was laughing inside but continued watching her. Lucy saw in her peripheral view that Josh had stopped writing to look at her. He probably had a jaw drop at her hotness. Lucy was almost passing by Josh's desk when suddenly, her heels slipped on the floor. A loud noise was heard when she fell, and all her bag items were scattered. Lucy stood up like nothing had happened while Josh was laughing so hard. He knew she would mess up but never thought she would fall that hard. The man picked up the small travel shot glass in rubber form and made fun of it. Lucy burst into laughter because it was a menstrual cup. Josh immediately dropped it and sanitized his hands. The lady continued giggling while picking up other things. Lucy removed her coat and hung it on the chair. Josh was looking, and he was annoyed at how short her dress was. He wondered if she would date someone later. The lady replied she might and placed her bag on the table. She accidentally pushed her bag too much, and the pencil holder fell. She acted cool while picking it up, seeing Josh was observing. She got up but banged her head on the table corner. Josh was laughing inside and found her weird. He teased the lady about stopping being stressed about the job application, because it would only be useless. Lucy glared at him and remembered the dream. She shared with Josh about her weird dream last night with a guy from work. Josh was overconfident to assume it was him. Lucy rolled her eyes and denied it. Deep inside, she wondered why he knew and was annoyed about it. She pretended to flip books so he won't notice her lying. Helen and Bexley were arguing about something, and they were raising their voices. Bexley turned red, trying to win the argument. Helen, on the other hand, was not intimidated and fought for what she knew was right. They separated their ways and headed to their offices. Lucy and Josh were staring at them, wondering about the issue. Silence filled the room after the two banged their doors. Josh felt awkward, so he broke the silence. He asked about Lucy's date and where will it be. The lady finds him curious and teases him for secretly liking her. Josh denied it because he was only practicing as her future manager. According to him, a manager asking about employees' personal lives would likely boost their morale. Lucy got irritated and boasted about having a date later at 7 p.m. Josh would also be there at the same time and couldn't wait to discover if she was lying or not. Lucy is rattled because she has no date and only made up those. Afraid to be busted, she searched for a guy to be with her later. Danny was pre-packing his things in the office because he would soon resign. He hates Bexley and wants to start a company of his own. He only has a remaining week to work at Bexley and Gammon. He was surprised to see Lucy in a fitted dress. She looked stunning, but he is not used to seeing her wearing that. Lucy was delighted to see Danny and requested something from him. She invited him out, however, the man was only free tomorrow night. Lucy knows he loves cats, so she tells the man she will be busy on other days rescuing orphaned cats, and tonight is her only free time. Hearing that, Danny was touched and agreed to meet her later. Lucy and Josh worked until late at night, as usual. At the elevator, Josh remembered the date and offered her a ride to the restaurant. She looks tired, and it is raining. Lucy refused and warned him to stop spying on her. Josh was insulted and told the lady he was concerned about the makeup. She spent 22 minutes only to be washed out by heavy rain. Lucy's temper went high, and she talked rudely to him. Josh got tired and never talked back. Lucy noticed he was silent, so she also stopped talking. Josh stared at her seriously and asked why she was always mad at him. He is tired of playing hating games with her and wants to know the reason behind it. Lucy was caught off guard. It was only at that moment she realized she hated Josh for shallow reasons. She didn't know how to react and thought of kissing him. Josh did not move away and kissed her back. It might sound weird, but Lucy was falling for him. In the end, she agreed for Josh to drop her off at the restaurant. The two were awkward inside the car. Josh broke the silence, asking if she would still meet Danny. The lady nodded yes, and it made him feel confused. He thought the kiss at the elevator meant she loved him. Lucy was bothered by the man thinking she had romantic feelings because of the kiss. Well, he was right, but she feels shy to admit it. Josh was hurt that the kiss meant nothing to the lady. Regardless, he drove her to the restaurant and offered her an umbrella. Before he could open it for her, the lady dashed outside and left him. Lucy was all wet when she arrived at the bar. She saw Danny sitting, so she rushed to apologize for being late. Dan only came minutes earlier, so it was fine for him. They talked about some books, and Dan was bad at conversing casually. He was an introvert and only dated a few girls. However, it won't matter to Lucy because she only used him as an excuse for Josh. The lady got bored and excused herself. She bumped into Josh on the way to the comfort room. She felt he was tailing her. Josh, on the other hand, wondered why she was always irritated to see him. He only came to return the purse she left in the car and nothing more. Lucy grabbed the bag but never thanked him. Danny saw Josh, so he asked Lucy if something was happening between them. The lady denied it, saying he only gave the files she left at the desk. Dan was relieved and wondered if their date was real. Lucy confirmed it and told the man she was free to date and that he should not be bothered about Josh. They had a great conversation after learning they came from the countryside and their families both own farms. Lucy has a strawberry plantation that her parents manage. Dan, on the other hand, owns different livestock than the lady could ever imagine. Their talk never turned dull, and Lucy enjoyed every second with him. The next day, Lucy woke up early in a good mood. There was also a delivery of flowers for her from Danny, making her heart overwhelmed with happiness. Josh arrived in the office late and saw Lucy busy on the desk. She never greeted him or even stared. She might still be mad about last night, and it made him feel uncomfortable. After settling down his things, he apologized to the lady. He was surprised to see her genuinely smiling and teasing him for not taking a bath. She was not mad and told the man to forget about it and move on. On that day, they never hated each other and played typical colleagues game. Josh asked about how her date went last night. The lady was all smiling, sharing everything, including the flowers Dan had given her earlier. It was a classy move, and she believes they would click since they have a lot in common. Josh, on the other hand, was doubting if she was happy with him. He knew how weird Dan was, and he was not her type of guy. Shortly after, Helen approached Lucy about her team-building proposal. The lady already planned to book a conference center and organize a scavenger hunt. Little books will be everywhere with clues inside, inspired by the Gulliver's Travel. Josh made fun of her idea by snoring loudly. Lucy was irritated and challenged him to reveal his proposal. The man boasted about playing paintball. Unlike her boring proposal, his will be physical activity, something fresh and way different from dealing with papers in the office. Helen loved Lucy's idea, but Mr. Bexley liked Josh's. He believes it would be exciting to work out their issues by playing with guns. For a fair decision, the board decided to flip a coin where the paintball proposal won. Lucy glared at Josh out of anger. The man showed an evil smile after being favored. Irritated, Lucy attacked him and pulled his hair. Josh freaked out, seeing the lady with uncontrollable anger. But he was lucky because it was only in Lucy's imagination. The lady walked out, pissed off by the paintball idea. On the day of the team building, everyone was excited except for Lucy. She looked irritated as she wore the protective gear for the game. As usual, Josh stood beside her to annoy her. He keeps boasting that his proposal won even if the employees hated him. Lucy rolled her eyes to shut his mouth. Danny went to the lady, inviting her to be on his team, and Lucy was game about it. Josh looked at them with disgust as they flirted with each other. He interrupted them, saying teams are pre-chosen before the game and are not in the same group. The lady got bored after hearing that. She wouldn't enjoy the match without Dan. Before the game started, Josh noticed that Lucy was pale. He touched her forehead, and it was hot. The lady removed his hands and warned him to watch out later. She will make sure to aim her gun at him. Josh smiled and banged her helmet because they were teammates, and she couldn't target him. Shortly after, the battle between the blue and orange teams started. Helen shot Dan with the paint pellets, and he got eliminated instantly. Josh, secretly mad at Dan, aimed his gun at him and fired it 3 times. Because of that, Lucy was angry and pushed him away. Mr. Bexley almost hit the lady, but Josh pulled her behind the water tanks. Bexley was an expert and eliminated the orange team one by one. Only Lucy and Josh were left, and they competed on who could shoot him. Lucy ran in the old man's direction without Josh. She was determined to eliminate Bexley and be hailed as their team's hero. Josh, on the other hand, won't let that happen, so he also runs beside Lucy. Mr. Bexley effortlessly fired pellets at the lady, causing her to fall to the ground. Josh covered her from Mr. Bexley's attacks because they looked painful. Suddenly, Lucy fainted and vomited on his coat. The team building was not pushed through because of the incident. Josh drove Lucy home. He also accompanied the lady inside to ensure she won't fall again. Lucy doubted his kindness because they were not that close. She ordered him to go out, but she puked again. Josh assisted her in running to the bathroom. Lucy wondered what had happened to her because she was never that ill ever since. Josh rubbed her back to give comfort. He also promised to take care of her until she felt better. The man went to the living area while Lucy washed up her face. He was amused with the different collections of toys she had around. He also discovered she was preparing for the managerial position after seeing her notes for the presentation. Lucy was indeed hardworking, and it was only then that he realized. Lucy felt exhausted and weak, so she headed to her room in pajamas. She lay on her bed and covered herself with a thick blanket. Josh went inside to check on her. He brought a thermometer to assess her temperature. Lucy couldn't believe that a man had gone inside her apartment, especially Josh. She was shy at first but eventually allowed him to check her fever. The temperature was too high, alarming the man. Lucy woke up in a warm blanket. She opened her eyes, and it was blurry. She looked at the door and saw two men standing. The lady thought she was dreaming, but one man introduced himself. He was a doctor and asked permission to check on her. At that moment, Lucy's eyes became clear, and she saw how attractive he was. She also learned he was Josh's brother, Patrick. After assessing her condition, the two went to the living room for the prescription. Patrick asked Josh if he would attend his wedding. He will have the final listing of guests, and he wants to confirm if he can come. Josh had second thoughts because it would be awkward, but Patrick insisted and told him it was a must to appear at his siblings' wedding. He is also encouraged to bring a date to make him feel at ease. Lucy overheard them but pretended to sleep when Josh went to her room. Patrick had left already, and he advised him to keep Lucy hydrated. The lady doesn't want Josh to hold the glass of water for her. However, the man insisted because she already broke two earlier. While Lucy was drinking, she remembered her mom making strawberry juice when she was sick. She asked Josh if his mother also does that. He smiled, saying his parents were busy with surgeries whenever he was ill. It was only then that Lucy learned his whole family was doctors except him. Josh doesn't want to be emotional, so he changes the topic and teases Lucy by calling her Shortcake. The man confessed he liked to see her irritated with that nickname. Lucy, on the other hand, admitted she was surprised by what happened at the elevator. She loved how Josh kissed her, and the way he looked at her every time they played a staring game. The man only smiled, flattered by what she said. He also put her to sleep after that. The next day, Lucy woke up feeling better. She went to the kitchen to grab some food but was shocked to see Josh cleaning her apartment. Everything was neat and clean, from the living area to the kitchen cabinets. Lucy was impressed by how obsessive he organized things like on his office table. She felt embarrassed and requested him to stop. The man insisted, saying the table was the only one left to clean. He wiped it and prepared to leave. He also reminded her to take Patrick's prescription. Lucy thanked him for all the help since yesterday. Josh bid goodbye and left. Lucy arrived at the office, being welcomed by Danny. He had already transferred to another firm but heard about the incident. He brought flowers to make her happy. The lady was touched by his gesture but annoyed when he talked about aliens. Josh was irritated to see Dan again flirting with Lucy. He was low-key calling him out to leave, reminding the man he doesn't work for the company anymore. Lucy was surprised to see a rose on her desk. There was also strawberry juice beside it. She reads the note with the word shortcake. She noticed the penmanship was similar to the one she received at home, so it was Josh who also sent it. Lucy looked at him to say thank you, but the man pretended not to hear. He was still bothered by the way Dan flirts. Helen was delighted to see Lucy's application for the managerial position. The lady talked to her and looked worried if she could get the job. Helen advised never to doubt herself because she saw how intelligent she was at work. She used to coordinate all the departments for Helen. The woman also relied on her to do the tasks she hated the most. She should have also promoted her to the editorial years ago, but she never asked. She keeps underestimating herself when she is an asset to the company. Helen knows she fits the job, and she has to believe in her capabilities. Lucy gave Josh a strawberry shortcake to thank him. She also offered to be his +1 at the wedding. However, the man was cold to her. He requested the lady to give him quiet time because he was busy. Lucy never listened and followed him to the hallway. Josh kept walking, so she pushed him inside the storage room. She will only leave him once he says yes to bringing her to the wedding. The man refused, so she tried to kiss him. Josh pushed her away. He doesn't want to be an experiment before she settles down with Danny. He knows something is going on with them, and he hates to intervene. However, if Lucy wants his kiss, he challenges her to have dinner with Danny and kiss him. After that, she needs to decide who kisses better. If she chose the elevator kiss, they could be more than friends. Later that night, Lucy invited Danny on a date, as Josh suggested. They were dining when Lucy got bored hearing his trivia. She directly asked him if he had ever thought of kissing her. The man nodded yes, but he was too shy to do it. Without hesitation, Lucy kissed him. She did it twice to assess if it was a good one. The lady stood in front of Josh's apartment. She wants to see him after dinner with Dan. There was no sparkle when they kissed, and she wanted to inform him about that. However, no Josh went outside, so she texted him. Little did she know, the man worked overtime and only arrived home. He asked Lucy how the date went. The lady replied she wouldn't go out with Dan anymore. She realized that Josh's kiss was more passionate. Josh was delighted to hear that and kissed her. Josh invited her inside. Lucy was amazed by how organized Josh's apartment was. She went to his mini library and discovered he never owned a Bexley book. He prefers reading the Gammon collections. The lady also noticed an anatomy material when she learned that Josh went to medical school for a year. However, he puked on a lifeless guy's stomach after 2 semesters of studying. So his dad realized he was not destined in the field. Lucy and Josh lay in bed, and the lady wants to kiss him. Lucy was shocked because the man didn't want to be romantically attached to her. He knew she was applying as managing director, and he wanted to compete with her. He was also afraid that the lady was only pretending and would eventually drag him down from the position. Lucy was so disappointed and banged the door. She swore never to fall in love with him again. Like Helen, Mr. Bexley was also rooting for his executive assistant Josh to win the managerial position. He introduced him to his great friend, Simon Mitchell, from Harvard. Simon knows almost half of the hiring panel, and he would love to write a recommendation for Josh. Lucy, who was at the pantry, heard everything. She also wants to get to know Simon, but Bexley stops her. Her dream to be a manager would surely be over. Lucy went to Helen's office. She borrowed the telephone and contacted her boss 10 years ago. The employer barely knew her, but she requested him to write a recommendation letter based on her previous performance. Lucy was delighted when her ex-boss agreed. The lady also met Danny to help her with the graphics of the proposal. Dan was willing to help despite Lucy ending their romantic dates. He asked about how she and Josh were going. Lucy replied they remained as mortal enemies. It's Christmas time, and the presentation for the proposal is fast approaching. Lucy stayed in her apartment, dancing while decorating her place. Suddenly, someone knocked on the door, and it was Josh. Lucy was still mad at him for turning her down. She also requested the man to focus on the competition and stop meddling in her life. Josh reminded her about Patrick's wedding. The lady promised to be his +1, and she also owes him a favor after helping her the last time. Lucy refused, but the man insisted and told her his family was expecting her to come. Lucy has no choice but to pack her things. In the car, Josh oriented the lady about his family. His mom is great, and she would surely love to see her. His dad, on the other hand, is complicated. They just argued recently since he cannot get over him leaving med school and breaking up with his girlfriend. Lucy laughed hard, imagining how worse he was at handling a relationship. For Lucy, he was not the type of guy a woman would marry. At the hotel, the receptionist thought they were couples. Josh told the man he had booked 2 rooms. The attendant checked the reservations but only found 1 room under his name. He apologized, telling them it was the only room available. Josh wanted to argue, but Lucy calmed him down. She told the receptionist they would take it. A family dinner will be later, and Josh will introduce her to the family. Night came, and Lucy was all dressed up. Josh stopped her and pleaded to stay. Lucy was concerned about what his family would say for not meeting them. Josh assured her everything was fine, and he had already texted them they were stuck in traffic. That night, Lucy confessed she snooped into his planner the last time and saw some symbols she never understood. The man explained it was all about her. He lists down the days she wears pants or skirts. He also writes down the days they fight and the times he wants to kiss her. Lucy was speechless. She never knew she was important to him. Josh dared the lady also to spill something he didn't know about her. Lucy confessed about the day she wore a black dress. He was the guy in her weird dream. She also lied about having a date, and it was only that day that she invited Dan to go out with her. She was afraid he would make fun of her, alone sitting in the bar. Josh patted her head, telling her she would not be alone there if she told him the truth. On the day of the wedding, Josh woke up early. Lucy looked stunning in her emerald green dress. Before they entered the venue, she helped Josh fix his crooked tie. Josh's mom was delighted to meet Lucy. She finds her adorable and wants to keep her forever. The couple sat beside Josh's dad, who has the opposite personality to his mom's. He looked serious and dull to get along with. Lucy tried to greet him, but he was not friendly. He was also cold to Josh and never appreciated his presence. Lucy thought he was the reason why the man had second thoughts about attending. Maybe they are not on good terms like what Josh told her. Patrick walked down the aisle, waiting for his bride, Mindy. Lucy finds Mindy attractive, and the white gown suits her. Josh, on the other hand, never looked at her. At the reception, Lucy drank in the venue's bar. Mindy approached her and had a great conversation. While talking, Lucy discovered that Mindy and Josh dated for a year but never worked out. Mindy clarified it was not that serious and that she had nothing to worry about. Lucy felt jealous but pretended to be fine. She realized Josh hesitated to attend the wedding not to keep distant from his father, but because the bride was his ex-girlfriend. Lucy went to the balcony to unwind. She was still speechless about Mindy's revelation. Josh stood beside her, so she confronted him. She felt betrayed that he never informed her about his relationship with Mindy. Josh clarified he never invited her just to boast to his ex-girlfriend. He thanked her for coming because he would be embarrassed to face his father alone. Josh was teary as he shared about himself and his brother. Patrick was always the favored son, especially when he quit med school. It became much worse when Mindy left him to be with Patrick. He felt left behind in the family, alone, with no one. There was even a time when his father went fishing with Patrick and other doctors. They never invited him because his dad thought he would be out of place if he went. He kept all that pain in his heart and never complained about it. Lucy felt bad for him and invited the man to drink to make him feel better. Inside, Dr. Templeman gave a heartfelt message to the newlywed. His wife prepared him a script, but he refused to read it. He thanked Patrick for not disappointing him and excelling in med school. He was happy to witness him grow into an outstanding physician. But among all the decisions he made, marrying Mindy was the best. Dr. Templeman welcomed his new daughter-in-law to the family. Josh was staring down at the floor while hearing him talk. He felt he was a disappointment to himself and the family. Good thing Lucy was there to comfort him. Lucy appreciated the Christmas tree when Josh's mom approached her. She was looking for Josh, so Lucy replied he went out to buy aspirin for a headache. Mrs. Templeman felt bad about her son. She knew he had been hurt earlier by his father's speech. The woman also thanked Lucy for coming. She was looking forward to meeting her after Josh mentioned her at home. Lucy was terrified learning about it, and maybe Josh said negative words about her. Mrs. Templeman continued talking and shared how her son described her. For Josh, Lucy drives him crazy, always challenges him with anything, and is also a strong-willed person like him. Back then, Mrs. Templeman thought his life was a downfall when Mindy left him, and when he chose to work at B&G. However, meeting Lucy was the best thing that ever happened to him. She also added that her son never looked happy about other girls, like how his eyes sparkled when he looked at her. Lucy was flattered because Josh had never told her about that. Patrick interrupted their talk and requested his mom to return to the reception, because his dad looked drunk. He is afraid of him troubling the guests. It was true, Dr. Templeman made a scene at the party by lecturing Josh on his life decisions. He was still upset after he quit med school. He was also against his son working in a publishing house, because it was not a noble job for him. He suggested at least joining the Peace Corps or charitable organization if he dislikes being a physician. Dr. Templeman said all of those loudly, and everyone looked at them. His wife was trying to stop him, but he never listened. Josh, on the other hand, never talked back to his dad. He respected him so much, and he didn't want to make everything worse. Lucy felt bad for Josh, so she argued with his dad. She questioned his perception that being a writer is not noble. Dr. Templeman doubted that his son wrote books because he believed he only made coffees for writers. He told the lady to mind her business and stop meddling in their conversation. Josh calls out his dad for being rude to Lucy, so the man keeps silent while Lucy talks. Since Dr. Templeman has no idea about his son's work, Lucy explained how Josh was a great asset to the company. She saw how the sales and finance employees were triple-checking their reports because they knew how Josh was meticulous. He noticed even the tiny mistakes, making them afraid of him. He was also the reason why B&G was successful. He discovered that reducing their manpower to 30% highly affected their performance. Because of that, 200 employees never lost their job after the two companies almost collapsed. He may not be a doctor, but his intelligence is beyond compare. He is amazing, but the fact his dad never knew all of those is a shame. Dr. Templeman was speechless. At that moment, he realized how lucky he was to have Josh. Lucy and Josh exited the reception and drove back to the city. In the car, Josh held Lucy's hand and looked so happy about what she did. He was also curious about what will be their real score after. Josh has already dated different women, and they always say he is not the type of guy a woman would settle for marriage. He hopes Lucy would not think like them, to go out with him only for fun. The man also clarified he never hated her, and not a second. He can also prove that if she will go with him. They went to Josh's apartment. He instructed the lady to stand in the mirror and tell him what she noticed. There, Lucy realizes the color of the walls matched her dress. The soul painting displayed in the room was also inspired by her blue eyes. It was only at that moment she realized he was calling her shortcake, not because she stands 5 feet flat, but because she came in the countryside of strawberries. Finally, Josh confessed he loves her so much and he is willing to take the risk to win her. Lucy was speechless. It was the first time she heard him confess. Instead of being happy, she was afraid because of their careers. The proposal presentation is only days away, and they compete for the same position. They also promised that one would quit if one of them got hired. Their fights at the office may also create trouble in their relationship. Josh assured the lady she had nothing to worry about. No one needs to quit, he trusts Lucy so much, and their small fights back then won't be an issue. The man was teary as he looked into her eyes. He is sure about her, and he hopes she feels the same way. Lucy came to work all smiling. She could not contain her happiness in being in a relationship with Josh. She arrived at the office and saw a cute box on her desk. It was a mini car her boyfriend gave her. The lady also took out her present for Josh, a Smurf, and placed it on his desk. The man was talking to Mr. Bexley about the proposal. Lucy got curious, so she eavesdropped on their conversation. Mr. Bexley was rooting for Josh to be the managing director, and he was glad that the man listened to his advice. Bexley is willing to help him in any form if he is in need. Josh assured him he had already made strategies, and he didn't want him to interrupt. Lucy trembled out of shock. She feels betrayed by Josh. She immediately contacted Danny to talk to her in a coffee shop. Lucy shared everything with Danny. She feels like an idiot believing his lies. She was so dumb to let herself be played in that way. Dan also believes their relationship was only an act to distract her from the proposal. Lucy never saw that happen. Josh looked so sincere when he confessed to her. Dan cheered her up and advised the lady to nail on the interview and get the job. Suddenly, Josh came because he wanted to have coffee with Lucy. The lady glared at him and refused his invitation. Josh wondered why she was suddenly mad. He was hurt because she looked happier with Dan before he came. In the office, Lucy and Josh quarreled. The lady was mad after all the lies he made her believe. Josh told her she was also a great liar for saying she didn't like Dan but ended up dating him again. Lucy exploded and told the man she overheard their conversation with Bexley, and she couldn't believe he would go that far just to make his dad proud. Josh had no idea what she was talking about. He was about to explain, but Bexley intervened. He instructed Josh to prepare the projections as soon as possible. Josh refused because his mind was occupied by Lucy's crazy allegations. Bexley looked at the lady to make her do it, but she declined after he talked behind her back earlier. Heartbroken, Lucy chose to focus on her proposal. She also communicated with Dan about the progress of the graphics. She meets Josh at work, and he looks happy without her. Josh, on the other hand, represented the company for various investments. Despite all of his commitments, he couldn't stop thinking about Lucy. On the day of the presentation, Lucy noticed that Josh's office was vacant. His things were gone, and maybe he was up for something knowing how competitive he was. Helen motivated the lady to do her best on the presentation later. Lucy presented her proposal and was overwhelmed by the support she got from the Gaiman family. She also saw Josh there, applying for the position. In front of the panelists, Lucy presented her idea about a cross-media platform, where the reader can download ebooks or audiobooks, and then converse with other readers and the writer. She suggests that after the readers finish a chapter, they will be directed to a group chat where the writer was added. She also estimated a budget to make her proposal realistic and achievable. After the presentation, Helen gifted Lucy a limited edition book she loved the most. The lady was so grateful for her sweet gesture. Shortly after, Lucy was called back to the conference room for the announcement of the newly hired managing director. The lady was intimidated by Josh mingling with the panelist. At that moment, she knew he had got the position. Lucy accepted it with all her heart and congratulated him. However, Lucy was wrong. Josh congratulated her because she will be the managing director of B&G. It turned out Josh never applied for the position. He had a new job as acquisitions editor at HarperCollins last week. The time she overheard him with Bexley was the moment he started applying to other companies. It was the strategy he was referring to, but he never mentioned it to Bexley. Helen also apologized for not telling the lady about it. She already knew, but she didn't want to ruin her determination to win the job. Lucy was teary as she looked at Josh. Everything they went through flashbacked in her mind. And it was only then that she realized that hating him meant loving him.